The Shepnaz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shepnaz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. And in studio with me today, I have the new leaders of Celebrate Recovery here at Shepherd. It is Hank and Kristen LiPuma, and we want to welcome them in, and we're going to learn a little bit about their experience with CR and also kind of some things that they have planned for the future. So welcome in, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In full disclosure, you're always easy go-tos for me since we're in small group together, and I was heard that you were going to be doing this, and I thought this would be an excellent time for us to kind of put a spotlight on what can be a very vital ministry in meeting people in crisis and helping people through that. So not everybody knows you guys as well personally as I might. So let's do a little bit of some introductions in that regards. So Hank, if you go first and tell us a little bit about yourself, AKA Henry or Hank, depending on how well you know him, and a little bit about you coming to Shepherd in the first place, kind of how long you've been here, the things that you're involved in, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So I grew up in the church. I grew up going to church occasionally as a young child, and I was not in church much in most of my childhood until 8th grade. I was invited to a church through a bus ministry, and after being there for I'd say less than a year, probably 4 or 5 months. I gave my life to Christ. What I heard about Christ, and it just was all true to me. And he changed my life there. And I went to Church of Christ and Christian Union for probably close to 20 years. I started coming here in 2014, and I learned about Celebrate Recovery through the bulletin.
Back in the days when we had paper.
Yeah, back when we had paper. So there was things that I had been struggling with, and I knew that. Well, I thought that Celebrate Recovery would be a good thing for me to go to, and I started going there. Started getting help with things that I was struggling with through accountability with others, through the step study. So there's been a lot of growth through Celebrate Recovery and through continuing to stay in the church and continue to, study the Word and all that. So
great. Now, Kristen, sometimes you're up front a little more, so more people may be just used to seeing you. Hank sometimes is holding Gretchen or running screens or doing something like that. But for those that don't know, or maybe they recognize you, but they don't really know you, if you would tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I grew up in the church as well. My dad was a Nazarene pastor. I went to college at a really awesome Nazarene university.
Just up the road?
Just up the road. And when I was there, I met a guy who I ended up marrying. And within a month of us being married, he started to abuse me. And about 3 years into that marriage, 2.5, 3 years, whatever it was, I left him because, my family was able to come and get me and help me get out of that. My brother tried to get me into this codependency group because he thought I was codependent. I had no idea what that meant. And so I was I went twice, I think, and totally thought it was not for me. And then the interesting thing is that Celebrate Recovery started the exact same year and time frame that I left him. And so then I was going back and forth between Lisbon and Columbus because I still worked here. So the weekends I was up at my brother's, weeks I was here. And my sister was trying to get me into the Celebrate Recovery here because it had just started. And I was like, oh, it's not for me. It's not for me. And then let's see, I've been at Shepherd in September, it'll be 21 years. I know that because Jackson just turned 21 and I started coming full time when he was like 2 months old. So I was coming to Shepherd. I was doing the music. I was doing the stuff, and I became really close with someone who was doing music back then, which was Amy. And she was like, hey, why don't you come and just do worship? Just lead worship for like 2 weeks out of the month. And I was like, sure. So I went, and 2 weeks out of the month, I would lead worship for Celebrate Recovery. Fine. Well, about 6 months in, I heard a lesson on inventory, and the person giving the lesson her story was so similar to mine, and I realized just how broken I was and how I hadn't really admitted that, and I hadn't really gotten to a place where I understood I needed it. And so about 6 months in to leading worship, I realized I needed to be there full time. And so I started going every week, and eventually started leading worship every week. And then I went through the step study, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a minute. But I went through the step study, and I found out that I actually had a backbone, which I didn't know for the first 29 years of my life. I know I only look 28, but for the first 29 years of my life, I did not have a backbone. I didn't stand on my own. I pretty much did whatever everyone else wanted me to do, and I just went with the flow. And by then, after going through the step study, about 8 months in, I had a backbone sticking out the top of my head. Like, it was, my strength had finally showed up. And my voice had finally showed up. And so I stayed. And Celebrate Recovery, it's a ministry, it's a tool that God has given us to just really reach people and to bring them out of those places of darkness, which is where I was at the time.
Well, and as you were talking, both of you alluded to going through kind of the step study. And I think a lot of people are familiar with AA being like a 12-step program. So whichever one would like to address this, but if you would kind of tell us, we could start out with some of whatever the similarities might be, but then also the things that you feel differentiate Celebrate Recovery from perhaps a traditional like AA program, something to that effect.
Sure. Do you want me to go?
Sure.
Okay. So the steps are very similar. The AA steps or the CR steps actually were adopted off of the AA steps. However, every single one of the 12 steps has a biblical comparison. So there's scripture that goes along with each step. So in your secular programs, you have a higher power. In Celebrate Recovery, we know who our higher power is. It's Jesus Christ, and that's who our rock is, and that's the foundation of our growth, and that's the foundation of our healing, right? And so Celebrate Recovery, we take pretty much the same 12 steps. Some of them have been reworded for people who've been through any kind of abuse, physical or sexual or any of those things, and have been reworded a little bit to help them with their healing process. But there's biblical comparisons. We also have the Beatitudes from Matthew. So there's 8 Beatitudes, and we take those in their scripture reference, and we also use those in the recovery process.
So as we look at it in light of like our church mission statement, it's not just getting over whatever problem that you've been dealing with, but it is taking that next step towards Jesus. It is becoming more like him each day, coming closer in your relation to him each day. So for those that are thinking, okay, well, maybe this might be something for me, but yet you mentioned you were resistant for quite some time about coming to it. Maybe let's look at it from that perspective for a second of like, what was keeping you from wanting to come? What was it that he's like, I don't think that kind of thing's for me? What was it that was going through your mind at the time that you didn't think you would be open to that?
Yeah. So what's funny about some of the things that were keeping me from coming and might be keeping other people are some of the reasons why some people do come. So I was afraid. I had this fear of admitting that I needed help. I thought I could do it on my own, right? And then there's also the pride of, I made it this far, or I don't need help. They don't understand me, and sometimes you feel so alone in your area of struggle, whatever that is. And it's huge. It's huge when it comes to like Celebrate Recovery. We'll cover that, but it covers like so much. But my pride and I've got this, and my fear of admitting that I needed it. For me, those were really big reasons that I didn't come, and those are some reasons that other people do come, because they're like, I'm struggling with pride. I need to get help with that, right? So I'm struggling with fear, forgiveness, or whatever it is, and we have to work through those things. So.
And Hank, for you, when you were kind of going through that process yourself before you started coming to CR, and when you finally made that decision to, I'll give this a try, what were some of the factors of like in that decision process? Like what was the thing where, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do this? Can you remember from then what it was like?
Well, like I said earlier, I was struggling with some things, and I learned that actually talking to people about what I was going through helped me to get some healing and to make some progress and some change. And when I learned that Celebrate Recovery was a thing here, I thought it'd be great to check out. And right away, I was connecting with other men, and that accountability helped me to gain consistency in my life, and to find healing and become more like Christ. Also, another thing about Celebrate Recovery is it helps you to get out of isolation, which being isolated keeps you from having growth, and from I think it can lead to making poor decisions, and it really helped me, and I believe it helps a lot of people to stay connected with others and not just try to do life on your own. So.
And when we're talking about recovery programs in a broader sense, ones that a lot of people are familiar with, may deal specifically with alcohol problems. Others may deal more specifically with drug addictions and kind of the nuances between the two of those. But let's talk a little bit about what CR, what is its focus? Like, what kind of issues do you find that people are able to get help with in that environment? Either one of you.
I'll go.
Or both.
I talk a lot, so I'll just go ahead. So one of the really cool things about Celebrate Recovery is it doesn't have a focus. It doesn't have this is for alcohol. This is for narcotics. It's for everything. Any hurt, habit, or hang up. Like I used to say that I like to get hung up on my hurts. Like I made a habit of getting hung up on my hurts, because we talk about in CR that it's for your hurts, habits, and hang-ups. I've seen people over the last 18 years where I'm struggling with forgiveness, or like for me, I don't have any addiction problems. Like I've never had a problem with alcohol. I've never had a problem with drugs. I've never done these things. Like I've never smoked a cigarette. Like these are just things that are not in my life and never have been. And so like, it's very easy for someone like me who doesn't have those kind of problems to go, well, it's not for me because I don't have a problem with drugs and alcohol. But we're not just for drugs and alcohol. Celebrate Recovery is for anything, any hurt you're dealing with, any issue you're dealing with. Like I said, I have abuse in my past, and I needed healing from that. like I was so incredibly broken, and I kept going through this pattern of brokenness and broken relationships because of that I wasn't able to like heal. I wasn't able to get to a place where I could be a good mom and I could be a good friend. And Celebrate Recovery really brought me out of that. And so one of the coolest things about it is that you don't need a drugs problem. You don't need an alcohol problem. You need, we all, like 98% of the population has something that they're struggling with, whether you want to admit it or not. And so, step one is admitting you're powerless. You're stepping out of your denial and saying, I need help. And whatever that is, whatever the problem is, whether it's forgiveness, like I said earlier, pride, fear, rejection, anxiety, like mental illness is becoming kind of a really big thing in our culture. There's a new initiative with Celebrate Recovery about, dealing with mental illness and helping people with that. So,
as indicated by the name, it's truly celebrating the recovery process and identifying that there is hope, that God can make true change, that you don't have to stay in the position that you've been in all this time. So tell us a little bit about if I was to come to Celebrate Recovery. First of all, tell us the day and time that we're meeting. And then if you would kind of go into a detail of like, this is what you should expect. This is what's going to happen if you come. So, Hank, you're up. What's the day and time?
The day is Thursday, and we meet for large group at 7 o'clock. And during large group, we have some singing, like 3 songs usually, that we'll be singing. We go through the 12 steps or the 8 principles. We'll have a lesson every other week, or we'll have a testimony every other week. That is pretty much mostly what's in the large group that we cover. Mm-hmm. We also go through the chips. So there's 12 months chips. You get a chip for each month that you have sobriety or that you have, I guess, freedom from things that have happened to you in your past. But we do those chips every month, and then we have a 1-year chip, 18-month chip. So we cover that in the large group also. So after large group, we go to small group. It's gender specific, so men and women go separate groups. Depending on the size, you might have multiple women's groups or multiple men's groups, but right now we're just one of each. The small group usually meets pretty close to 8 o'clock, so large group lasts about an hour, and then small group can last close to an hour depending on how many people you have, but this small group, we can focus on, you talk with other men or other women about what you're going through and, start to gain accountability and support from others through those groups.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of like take it at your own pace kind of thing where you may show up for the first time and like, I don't think I want anybody to pass a microphone to me. So what does that look like if I come first and I don't want to say anything? I just want to kind of blend in for a little bit. What's that like? Yeah,
that's included in like what we talk about at the beginning of small group, things that you can talk about in small group, and then also you can pass. You don't have to say anything. You can just listen, and that's really just up to you and what you're ready for.
When I first started coming, and I started staying for like the small group portion, because when I first started, I just stayed for the large group because I was just doing music. Mm-hmm. But when I started staying for small group, I think I probably spent the first like eight weeks of my time in small group just crying and saying like, hi, my name is Kristen.
And I cry.
And that's it. That's all I've got for you. Because I don't know where I'm at. I don't understand what's going on. I don't know how to share what I'm going through because I've bottled it up so long that I can't let it go. I can't give it to you, right? And then there comes a point where you feel more comfortable and you feel that freedom to just kind of let it go. And some people just pass, like every week. And they get something out of what other people are sharing. And then, some of us, I'm a talker, so I talk all the time, right? And so, we do limit the time for people to talk because we want everybody to have a chance to share.
Right.
But yeah, so it's okay if you come and you don't share right away. That's fine. And we won't make you talk in a mic.
And is this open to everyone? Kind of speak to that a little bit. Is this multi-generational? And you mentioned that there's during the small group portion that's gender specific, but a little bit about just who all can come. Who is this open to?
Yeah, it's 18 years and older because a lot of the things people are dealing with are adult issues. Although there is also a youth one that is called The Landing, and there's a children's one called Kids Connection. So we don't have those at Shepherd. Maybe someday we will. The cool thing about The Landing is that your youth pastor can take it and use it as a 12-week lesson, lesson plan. So it's kind of cool. But Celebrate Recovery, like as we have it, is 18 and older. We've had someone who's like 17 come in, and they're close, right? So it's okay.
Right.
But yeah, and it is, I'd say when you say multi-generational, it does span from 18 to 70s, right? But it is limited to 18 and over.
Okay. And I guess we don't want to just gloss over that you guys are stepping into this role, new to this role, obviously not new to CR. We want to thank Becky Jackson for her years of leadership. She felt like it was time for her to step back out of it, and you guys answered the call to be able to step into it. And so anytime you have a change of leadership like that, it's kind of a chance to kind of refresh, a chance to refocus or kind of cast the vision of what the future is going to look like for this ministry. And so open to either one of you, kind of talk a little bit about, obviously you're within the constraints of the program, but what things do you have coming up? What things have you planned? What things are coming along?
You want to talk? You want me to talk?
You can start.
Okay. This is our marriage. I talk all the time. So we have some really exciting stuff, actually. We have a training coming up at the end of August for leaders. So if you're a leader in Celebrate Recovery, you're welcome to go to this training. It's local, and it's talking about some new changes that are coming for Celebrate Recovery globally. And then there's also a training that we're going to in October. Hank and I are going, and it's like a national training that's happening up in Michigan. But some cool things that we've got coming for our Celebrate Recovery. We got the okay to go ahead and start sending out emails for invitations for live testimonies, right? A lot of times our testimony is just video. It's a YouTube video that we can get from like other Celebrate Recoveries. Well, I sent out an email invitation just to all of the email addresses that I had for local Celebrate Recoveries. Sure. And within 48 hours, I had all of my testimonies filled for the next 6 months. And I have a list of people that are waiting for me to contact them for spring. So that's super exciting. We don't have to have video testimonies for a while. Yeah. We have actually humans coming in and talking right to us, which is really different than having a video. Like a video, it's really easy to tune out and just kind of zone out into another world. I know, because as an artist, I zone out easy. But to have a live person come in, it's huge for them, right? Because they're sharing something, and it takes a lot of bravery to share your story with other people. But having them right there in person really makes it more real, what they went through. It's not just like something that's on a screen. It's these people actually went through this, and I can learn from it. So that's really exciting. again, we have lessons. We just had Pastor Tim just was able to get the PowerPoints for all the lessons. So that's something like he just texted me today and was like, I have these for you. So we just got those. So I'm really excited to be able to start using the actual like updated PowerPoints for all the lessons. I'm hoping that we can get some new leaders. We only have like 5 of us right now, including the 2 of us. And so, I'd love to see our Celebrate Recovery grow and our leadership grow, our leadership team, because, there's a core group of people that are always there, but then there's always people that are new. Like every week, we have new people. Yeah. And whether or not they come back, is up to them. We do have a 6-week challenge, so we give them a wristband if they come back for 6 weeks, stay. But the nice thing about Celebrate Recovery is that, like we say, what is it and what is it not, right? And one of the things it's not is it's not a lifelong commitment. However, your recovery journey is a lifelong thing. Whether or not you stay at RCR is up to you, right? But you don't have to. But we do have a core group of leaders, and so you'll see most of us every week. So I'd love to see that grow. But yeah, those are I think the most exciting thing for me is we have a schedule for 6 months plus of live testimonies, and we've got some cool things on the calendar for like Christmas and stuff like that, just to have a change in things. And we will be meeting on Thanksgiving, even though it's a Thursday and it's Thanksgiving, it's a big holiday. Sometimes we need a break from our family, and Celebrate Recovery is a good place for that. And then we've had people in the past who have come from other CRs, and they're like, I needed my group. I need my group, and my group's not meeting, so here I am, because they just needed to have that. The holidays bring a lot of crazy.
Well, yeah, and even though it would be convenient for you guys to just kind of mark that part off of the calendar, it's a recognition of the fact that a lot of times that people are struggling even more so during the holidays, and so that may actually be the time that they need the most help. Yeah. So, Hank, was there anything that you're looking forward to specifically with the new fresh start on things?
I'm excited about, like Kristen said, the live testimonies we're going to have, and just trying to continue to have good communication with people that are coming, and that way they know that we're here to help and to support in any way we can, and just try to continue to improve on our communication with people that are coming through. Kristen and I have talked about having live singing again. And that's something that we want to do occasionally. I think that in the past when we've had it, it's just been good for those that have come. It's good for their spirit, for just uplifting, and it's a good experience. And we've also talked about bringing in snacks again at the beginning, just have a little bit of fellowship, and just find ways to connect with people.
Well, and as we're wrapping up, if you could, either one of you, what are some things that people that are listening to, any ways that they might be able to help, or things that they can be praying for as you guys are continuing in this ministry?
Well, things you can pray for is, pray for Kristen and I, our leadership of this program, and also praying for more leaders. Pray that God will continue to guide us as we begin to lead this program. We've both been involved in it for quite a while, but we can continue to grow as leaders, and continue to grow in how we interact with people, and try to be helpful to them, and just guide us in what we say to people. And we can always learn more about celebrate recovery and about helping people with whatever they're struggling with. So.
I would say also, like he was saying, we'd like to have live music again. I'm the only one right now, so I don't really want it to be the Kristen show, so we're not doing live music. We just use like YouTube videos with lyrics. But if we can get some more singers, then that would be fantastic, because we could bring, live music back. Also, anyone who would like to volunteer for childcare, we do have, there's one person planning on coming to give their testimony, and they're bringing their child. Mm-hmm. So that night we're going to have childcare. So things like that. If people want to donate, like he was saying, snacks, water, whatever, if people want to donate things to help us with those kind of, things, like we have a budget, but it's little, right? And so if people want to give to that kind of ministry and to help us be more in fellowship with people, that would be, those are areas where people could help.
Well, I appreciate you guys. It is Thursday, so that means that CR is happening tonight at 7 o'clock. And we encourage you to spread the word. Maybe you feel called that you should come, or maybe you can spread the word to somebody else where this could be a help for them as well.
And it's Testimony Day.
It is Testimony Day. All right. So we encourage you to be a part of that. Also, you can check up with everything that's going on in the church by going to Shepnaz.org. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Hank and Kristen, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.